What if you could find and enrich thousands of leads for just over a cent? In today's video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how you can do that by scraping leads from Apollo and then enriching it with data scraping from Apify by data and the company's website, so we can get some really great insights into that person and the company and send fully personalized emails completely on autopilot. Hey, my name's Alex, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through how you can get this fully set up yourself, all with zero code. And the best part, each lead is going to be around $0.014 or 1 cent to be able to get a fully enriched lead that you'll be able to send the personalized emails out to increase that reply rate that you're going to get over email. So first, let's jump into a quick demo to see exactly how it works. We're going to need to add our Apollo URL, the industry, and any services offered. So I'm going to do the law firm industry today, or the law industry. We're now going to need to come across to Apollo. So this is just one of the many platforms out there that's going to give us that base data that we're going to scrape off for our leads. Only need the free tier today to get things started. Once you sign in, it should look like something like this on the people on prospect area. What we're going to do is come down. We're going to say that we want it to be in the United States. We're then going to filter down to 68 million. We're going to come through and just choose an industry. So again, this is going to be our law firms. So we can do law practice or legal service. We're going to close that down. We can do the employees. Say we're targeting some of the small businesses. So we're going to look here for those between 11 and 20 employees. The other thing we're going to change quickly, the management level. So we're going to do owner, founder, C-suite, partner, VP. So more those decision makers at the top of the business. We could do director if we want to. So make sure to copy this, and we're going to paste it in there. The next one, say you've got some automation around helping them respond to customers, drafting templates, or maybe automating a new service like NDA drafting, we can do that. Let's put some AI agents in there, and we're going to extract 500 records. So there we go. We've got all of those leads that have literally just come back and sort of the senior people in that business that we need. So as you can see, it's got LinkedIn, it's got their name, it's got their title, it's got verified status for their emails. So now it's going to go through line by line and just add these all in so that we can use that information later on. So at the bottom here, we can just see all of the different requests tied together. So as we press the button here, it's going to set it up for you. We've now got Hi Richard, Future-Proof NJ Law Office, which is all about that company. We can then come down and see the icebreaker. So given your extensive experience leading that individual, keen to explore how AI could help streamline operations. So deep background in educational and instructional technology, leveraging AI could really boost efficiency. So sounds much more realistic than, hi Richard, I do this, please talk to me. And speaking of offers, if we open this up, we'll be able to see here, maybe if you want to just change this to be specific to your company, 50% off or one company per postcode, you'll be able to add that in here. Come across the platforms like Instantly to be able to send out emails. We're going to log in. We'll be able to come down to where we've got, for example, campaigns, add a new campaign. We can do YT and then demo. We'll do continue. And now we can add our leads. So add leads, upload the CSV that we've just downloaded from everything that we've done in n8n. What we do need are these objects as custom variables, because then if we come down and add all of these, what we can do is upload all. Now it's going to go through and just try and upload those for us. You can then add the variables in here. So for example, Icebreaker 1, but if you come across to where we've got the leads, what we'll see is in here, we've got the column for personalized offer and icebreaker. As you can see, we've got the insights ready to go that we'll be able to use for this specific individual's email campaign. And if you want to access the resources for free, come across to our community. It'll be free as part of your 7-day free trial. Come into Classroom, come down to our AI agents. You'll get access to all of these different ones that we've done, plus over 3 a week that we generate. As you can see at the bottom here, after all of the different elements we're running through today, you have the blueprint here. You just need to download this, come across to a new area in n8n, import from file, and it's going to load up for you straight away. So you will be able to run it without having to do a thing apart from change the API keys. So let's get into it. First things first, we're going to get rid of all of these so we can go through and build it together. There we go. So let's come down to the start. Now, what we're going to be doing is scraping data for law firms. So first things first, we're going to come down, add a node in here. We're going to do a form. This is so that we can get lots of data coming through. We're going to need to give it a title, so we can do auto lead gen under 1 cent. We'll be able to come through and add our different elements in here. So first things first is we're going to need the Apollo and then URL. We're going to keep this as text just so that we can share the URL. We're then going to come through and add the rest in here. So we can do industry. You can do this as text, or if you wanted to come down and do a drop down list, you'd then be able to give it a few standardized options that you'd be able to choose from. I'm going to come back though and just do text. The next part here that we're going to come through is going to be our services to be offered. If we drop down the list in here, if we're in the automation and AI space, this could be AI agents, this could be some process automation, and you can add as many of these as you want to get the output. We're going to come through though and add the next part in here, which is just going to be number of records to extract. We've got a limit between 500 to 1,000 that we can do. So if you want to say 500 to 1,000, just to remind you, you'll be able to put that in there and it will remove it for you a bit later on. Now, if we come through, we'll do execute step. We're going to need to add our Apollo URL, the industry, and any services offered. So I'm going to do the law firm industry today, or the law industry. We're now going to need to come across to Apollo. So this is just one of the many platforms out there that's going to give us that base data that we're going to scrape off for our leads. If we sign up for an account, you can do this absolutely for free. You can go up the tiers if you want, but we only need the free tier today to get things started. Once you sign in, it should look like something like this on the people on prospect area. What we're going to do is come down. We're going to say that we want it to be in the United States. We're then going to filter down to 68 million. We're going to come through and just choose an industry. So again, this is going to be our law firms. So we can do law practice or legal service. We're going to close that down. We can do the employees. Say we're targeting some of the smaller businesses. So we're going to look here for those between 11 and 20 employees. We're then going to come down. You can add any other filters in here that you want. You have to go up to some of these paid services a little bit later on, but just for a quick demo, this is what we're going to be working with today. The other thing we're going to change quickly is just the job titles. So we're going to come down to here. We're going to make sure, actually, we're going to do the management level. So we're going to do owner, founder, C-suite, partner, VP. So more those decision makers at the top of the business. We could do director if we want to. And we're going to be able to scrape all of this data so that we can use it later on. So make sure to copy this and we're going to paste it in there. The next one, say you've got some automation around helping them respond to customers, drafting templates, or maybe automating a new service like NDA drafting, we can do that. Let's put some AI agents in there and we're going to extract 500 records. So now we can press submit. And this is going to capture all of the data into our eForm here. So there we go, we're able to use that. I'm just going to pin this, and this makes sure that we can use it in the future without having to re-add it every time we test. The next part we want to do is come across. We're going to do Airtable, because this is where we're going to store all of the records that we want to use. We're going to come down. We're going to do create a record, which is here. We're going to need to make sure that we're all connected up for our base. You'll get access to this table and all of the resources in the community. All you need to do is download them. So as you can see here, the CSVs come across into Airtable once you're set up. Click import CSV file and it will set it up for you all straight away. This is where we're going to be capturing all of the different lead URLs that we've used in Apollo and associating it with all of the scraped leads that we're going to have a bit later on. There's lots of data that we can get, as you can see here, but as you can see at the end, we're also going to be doing some personalized icebreakers, subject line, and that offer with the enriched data. If we come back across, as you can see here at the bottom left, you've got your account. You want to do Builders Hub. This is going to enable you to set up an access token. So just come through to here, do YT and then demo. And once you've added all the scopes, come down and add all of the resources, i.e. all of the tables, create a token, and then what we're going to do is come up to the top. We're going to do YT demo and then 2. We're going to copy this here, come back across, come up to the top. If you've not done it before, create a new credential and then just paste in there for the access token and it will set it up for you nice and easy. So now we can go through and start to add it to our base. So the base is the main table that we have. So as you can see here, it's both of these tables and it's called lead generation. If we come back across, we're then looking for a specific table, which would be Apollo leads or scraped leads. If we come back across, we're going to do lead and then generation. This is going to add our base, and then we're going to be able to do Apollo leads first. We're going to put across our Apollo URL. We're going to keep the number of leads as what we had in our input. We're then going to get the status. We can say in progress if we want to, just up to you if you want to include that. We can include the law, we can include the industry, any services offered. We can do the date created, we can do last modified, and anything else that we want to include in the future. We're going to do execute step. And now what we should see is if we come across is we've got this new one down here, which is all around the law firms. And we've got those 500 leads that we're going to be extracting. Now we get into the good part around scraping all of the leads. So we're going to come back across to n8n. We're going to do save. We're then going to come through to the next part here, which is going to be HTTP. This is so we can send off that request to scrape the data from our Apollo. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to come across to Apify. This is a great platform for using their actors to scrape lots of data. Really useful to be able to enrich some of the data you've got or find script ideas, different niche industries, news, all of this that we'll be able to use a little bit later on. As we can see here, once you set up an account, I'll include the link below so you can find it. We're going to come across to the Apify store. You're then going to come through and find all of the different actors, and we're going to use this Apollo scraper up the top here. As you can see at the top, it's going to cost around $1.20 per 1,000 leads that we export. They've made a few changes recently, so you have to have at least a paid tier on Apify, and that's where if we come across, you're going to have to spend that $39 if you want to extract more or up to the 1,000 leads. Otherwise, I think they limit it to around 100 now, which we can just double check in here. So there we go. We were able to do 50,000 leads. Otherwise, free users will have only 100 leads per run. So just keep that in mind for the value versus cost that you're going to be paying for this. We're going to do input. We've got all of the different records in here. It doesn't really matter. We just need the JSON. So we're going to come across to here and we'll be able to copy this. You also need to do save at the bottom just to make sure it's added to your account and we'll be able to run it in the background. What we're going to do first though is come across to the community, because up the top here we've got a curl request which is going to help us to run the actor, i.e. the Apollo data scraping, and get the results back nice and easy. We're going to copy this here, come back across, and then we're going to import the curl into here so it sets it up nice and easily. We're going to need to change our actor ID, so as you come into here, up the top in the URL is going to have that actor ID. We're going to copy the actor ID from up here, come back across, and then paste into here so it's all updated to run that specific actor. We're going to need to add our API key, so we want to come back to our account, come down to settings, API integrations, and then you want to create a new token. We'll do YT lead gen demo. We'll do create. We're then going to come down the bottom and copy this, come back across and just paste in here where we've got the bearer tokens. Now we'll be able to come through and just actually add the different parts in here. So now we're going to need to update it in here. So what we're looking for is those total records. That's going to be the number of records you want extracted. So we're going to pull that across for the number of leads on the left-hand side. And we've got the Apollo URL already in here, which as you can see on the right-hand side, one of the features I love about n8n, we can see exactly what will be sent off. What we can do is execute that step, and it's going to be able to go off and scrape all of this data for us for those Apollo leads currently in their database. We're just going to wait for this to come back. It takes a little time just because of the volume of records that we're doing. So maybe you want to set this on a schedule, maybe once a week, or just as you need it. And if you want to track how far it's going, you just need to come back across to where you've got your actors, the Apollo one, into runs, and up the top here, you'll see how long it's taken and how much they're going to charge you. So in this case, As you can see, it takes between 2 to 3 minutes to get all of those leads back. We're just going to wait for this to finish, so we'll come back across and just wait for that data to load up. So there we go, we've got all of those leads that have literally just come back, and it's all of the senior people in that business that we need. So as you can see, it's got LinkedIn, it's got their name, it's got their title, it's got verified status for their emails. If it's listed out any other social media, we'll be able to see it in here. We've got the headline, so maybe they've got more of an extended title, we can see that. We've got their email, organization ID, some of the employment history, the organization that they currently work out, any of the departments, sub-departments, functions, personal emails, so much in here that you'll be able to use to get the outputs that you're looking for. We're going to come out of here there, and we've got our 500 items. The next, I'm just going to filter these down so that we get the best output possible. So first things first, I want to make sure that they have a LinkedIn account, and that does exist. We're going to come down and add another condition, which is that if we close this down, we've got an organization, and that organization URL does exist, so we can say that. We're going to add another one in here, which is just the website URL. If we add that in there and we do exists, make sure that they've got a personal LinkedIn, a company LinkedIn account, and we can access their website. Now, if we do execute step, hopefully we should get all 500 staying, but it may drop off. There we go, 18, which didn't have that data that we need. So now we can do save. The next part, we're going to come through and save all of these into Airtable because it's all of the data that we've scraped. So we're going to come down, create a new record. We're going to make sure that we've got our authentication from earlier on. We're going to add our base in here, which is our lead generation. We'll add that there. We're now going to choose the other table. So this is all of the scraped leads. Again, the resource hub will give you access to all of these tables straight away. So all we need to do is add the different areas in here quickly now. So what we're going to do is come into here. We want to put across our record ID into here. We're then going to do the name. So we'll do full name. We can do the title. We can add the headline in here. We're going to come down and add the email status. We can add the email address as well. We can then come down and do LinkedIn URL. So we'll add that in there as well. We'll do their industry. So their specific company may be a slightly different industry. So we'll just collapse this down. We're going to come down to where we've got that specific information, law practice. We've got the number of employees. We'll come back up to the company information. We'll be able to see where it's got number of employees for LinkedIn. If we come a bit further down, actually, I think it's down here somewhere. So yeah, number of employees. We've then got the company name. So we'll be able to either add the one that they've got down here, or we can go back up to the top and include it from where we've got the organization. So we can do company name. We can do company URL, which is that website URL. We need their LinkedIn, so we'll add that in there. We can add the founded date as well if we wanted to. All of this data in here is able for you to use it as you need. So just keep an eye on that and just add it in as much as you need. Phone number, state, all of this sort of stuff we can add in. So we'll just come through and add this in quickly. We'll actually come a bit further up. There we go. We've got the city, we've got the state, we've got country. We've then got the rest of the information here, which is for later on. We don't need to add any of this. What we do need to do, though, is add our Apollo URL. So we're going to come back to the start for the on-form submission and pull this across. And then we're going to get rid of Apollo leads, created time, and last modified. So I've just deleted the leads that we had in there so we can see it nice and easily come through. So if we come back across, we'll be able to do execute step. And now it's going to go through and add that 487 that we had from a bit earlier on, that we've gone through and just verified that we've got all the details of. 482. So now it's going to go through line by line and just add these all in so that we can use that information later on. It's got number of employees, company name, company URL, year founded, all of this information that we need for later on. We're going to come back across. We're just going to wait for this to finish up, and then we're going to start the enrichment. So there we go. We've now got those 482 records added into Airtable. And if we come back across, as we can see here, it's now all completed here. So how are we going to go through and personalize it? Well, we're going to need a loop function first. so that we can go through each of these records. We can batch it all up. I just prefer working one by one. We're going to keep the batch size as 1 so that we only go through one record at a time. We're going to delete where we've got record here, and then we're going to come through and do a HTTP request. Make sure to click the subscribe button below. We do lots of videos around AI and automation, over 3 a week, plus all the resources. So the first one we're going to add in here is all around getting the information from Bright Data around that company's LinkedIn profile. Now, Bright Data is one of the leading platforms out there that's very cost efficient to be able to scrape lots of data. They've got loads of web APIs. They've got loads of data sets that you can purchase already. And they're one of the market leaders, as you can see here, just for the ability to use it nice and quickly and be compliant as well. Lots of recognizable names that use this as well. So once you've created an account, you want to come into your user dashboard. You want to come across to this spider looking one on the left hand side, come across to the web scrapers library. And then what we're going to do is come down to where they've got LinkedIn. There's lots of different ones on here, but today we're going to be using the LinkedIn company information collected by URL. We're going to click on this, do the scraper API, and then what we're going to do is set this all up by coming across to API request builder, and you've got all the different commands in here. All you need to do to get it set up is delete these ones here because we're going to be sending it through one at a time. We're going to need to turn on the webhook here. We're just going to do HTTP and then 2 dashes. We're going to do webhook.com, and we're just going to have that as a placeholder in there for now. We'll come up and copy this request here. We'll come back across and then import the curl so it's all ready to go. It's going to automatically add the dataset ID we want to use. We're going to update this webhook a little bit later on. And we're going to come through and make sure that it's got our API key in there. And then we're going to change this URL in a second. So we're going to put this to expression, come out of here, and then execute the previous step here, which is just the ability to loop through. So there we go. We just wait for this to come back. And then what we should be able to do is see this information from Airtable on the right-hand side. So we'll be able to use that with each of the requests. We'll come out of here. We're going to be able to come to the left-hand side and see where we've got the company LinkedIn. We'll scroll back down here. We're then going to change this to expression, open it up, put across, remove the URL that it's got in there for IBM, and then put across that company LinkedIn. So now we're going to be able to extract all of the data from LinkedIn. We're going to do execute step. This is going to come back with a snapshot ID. That's absolutely fine. We're going to be using this a little bit later on to be able to recall that data as we need it. So there we go, we've got it back. We'll pin that data in here. And then what we're going to do next is after we've got the LinkedIn company and then data, is we're going to do another HTTP request, which is all around scraping that website. The next part we're going to be doing is coming across and using this crawl API. Again, I'll include the link below so you can find it nice and easy. We're going to copy the curl request in here, come across and paste in there. So now we'll be able to analyze that website of the company. The other great thing about Bright Data is we're going to be able to get past a lot of the bot blockers out there so we can access all of the resource. Again, we're going to update our webhook a bit later on. We just need to come down here, change to expression, open this up, come down to the loop, we'll then put across so we can see a bit more. Come down to where we've got the company URL and add this in here so that we can scrape that specific website URL. We'll be able to execute this step in here, and this is going to send off another snapshot request just so that we can get that output that we need for a little bit later on to personalize that request that comes through. And there we go, we've all got it back. We'll pin that for now, come out of here and do save. The next part, we're going to do another HTTP request, and we're going to be using Apify. We're going to come to the App Store. We're going to look for LinkedIn, and then we're looking for here, the mass profile scraper with emails, no cookies for $10 per 1,000 result. We're going to need the JSON request here, but as mentioned, what we need to do is set it all up ready to go. Now, to use this, what we need to do is come back across to the community. We're going to copy this curl request here, come back across to our HTTP request, paste into here, and then import. Now we're going to be able to use this, so we need our actor ID exactly the same as before, come up to the top with the URL, copy, come back across and update the actor ID. We're going to paste that in there, come a bit further down. We'll copy our access token from a little bit earlier on where we scraped all of the Apollo data. So we'll come down and copy all of this, come down and then paste in here. We're going to come down and update this LinkedIn. So we'll come down to where we've got our loop items. It looks like we've not got anything in there. So we'll come down to where we've got our record and we'll be able to use that instead. We're just going to remove the URL and then we're going to pull across where we've got the LinkedIn URL, which is going to be here. So we'll pull that across and now we've got it specific for that individual. We'll come out of here and do save. And then we're going to say scrape LinkedIn of Ellison. We can do save. The next part after this is going to be Airtable. So we can store everything that we've just generated. So we're going to do update a record because we're going to look for that specific individual. Before we do that, we're going to come through and just add our table, which is going to be the actual leads that we've scraped. And what we're going to be looking for is the name that we're matching it on, but we're going to need to run some of the steps before to be able to see that. So we'll execute this step here, just around being able to get all of the data from that individual's LinkedIn page. So we're going to wait for this to come back. And this normally takes a couple of seconds, as you can see there, very quick to come back. Now we've got some more information about that individual that we'll be able to use for a bit later on and enriching the response back. So we're going to come out of here, do save. We're then going to use the name. So we'll put across that forename to match it on. We're going to get rid of the ID. We'll remove as much of this as possible because then what we're going to do a bit later on is store all of that information from the LinkedIn. So we can add an ID in here if we want to be able to recall it nice and easily. But actually what we're going to do is get rid of this so that we can open up the expression, open in here, and then we're going to be able to put across all of the key information. Now for ease, I'm just going to paste it across. So we're using some of the key information on the left just to be able to get the output. And we've joined some of it together just so we can use it in the future and see some of the interests, education, and much more. So then we're going to come out of here and now we're going to need to add some more. So first things first, we're going to close this down where we've got analyze website. This is going to be the website scrape ID. We're then going to need to do the company ID in here so that we can recall it and add it in the right place in the future. We'll get rid of the rest of these for now. So we're going to end up with just these three. We'll do execute step. And then what this is going to do is go through and add it back into our Airtable for all of those different items that we've got for that specific individual. So we'll just wait for this to come back through. So there we go. And now if I come across and we come back up to the top, what we'll be able to see is if we scroll across to the right hand side, we've now got that information around that data scraping we've just done, plus the two IDs that we've triggered in Bright Data. If we come back across here, we'll be able to do the done part in here. And for that, I'm just going to do a set module just so that it's going to run through basically until it gets to here. So we can go through each of the 500 different items that we've got. Brilliant. So how are we going to be able to get that data personalized and enriched? Well, we're going to need to come down. We'll do a web hook. This is so that we can capture all of the responses coming back. We're going to change this to a post request. You're going to need to put it in production for later on. I'm going to keep it in test for now, just so that we can trigger it as we need it. We're going to add this in here. We're next going to add a switch module just so that we can process either the website information or that individual company data. We'll do save. We're then going to come back into here and we're going to add another route. So to do this, we're going to need to get our test URL first. So we're going to copy this, come back across to our LinkedIn company data and update where we had the webhook placeholder. We're then going to come in here again and just redo where we've got the placeholder as well for the other one. There we go. So now it's going to send all of that data across to that specific one. And what does that data look like? Well, if we come back across to our logs, what we'll be able to see is that request we sent off. So I'm just going to download the JSON file so that we can see it nice and easily and get our sped up for the output we're looking for. So we're going to come into here and I'm just going to pin that data, which is first of all around that LinkedIn information that we've extracted. So how are we going to switch? Well, we're going to come into here and we're going to have two options. Now I'm going to copy across from our previous one just in the top here, which we're going to have a little bit later on. just around the webhook body for our specific website content we've extracted. If it is going to be the LinkedIn side there, as we can see on the left-hand side here, this is where we're going to be wanting to use the body ID just to see if it checks. So we're going to come out of there, we'll do save, and now what we'll be able to do actually is just rename the output. So we'll do website and then data, and then come down the bottom here and do company linked data. We'll be able to come out of there. They're going to work a little bit later on. We'll do Airtable. And then what we're going to do is update a record. And now we're going to need to pull through a few different parts. So we'll add our table in there. So generation, there we go. We're going to add the sheet in here. So the scrape leads. We're then going to match on the actual snapshot ID. So we're going to get rid of this. Come down to where we've got the company LinkedIn snapshot ID. And it will be on the left-hand side here. So I'm just going to paste that in there as an expression, which is what's going to work when we start to put this more into a production environment. We're going to get rid of the rest of this for now, because what we need is just one field down the bottom, which is all around that company LinkedIn scrape data, so that we can make sure that we can use this a bit later on. So we'll get rid of all of that, change to expression, open this up, and then we're going to add all of the points in here so that we can use it a bit later on. If I come out of here and do save, we'll be able to go through and just rename this as store company linked in data, and that's good to go. The next part here, we're going to do a code module, come back across to the community. We're going to copy all of this code here, which is just going to tidy up for us before we put it through an AI agent. We'll do save, and we're going to do a basic LLM chain in here. Again, we've got the prompts ready to go in the community, so you just need to copy all of this. Or if you access the blueprint, it'll already be good to go in the part below. We'll change to expression, and then we're just going to add it in here. So it's all ready to go. Make sure to stop and read it in your own time. But what we're basically saying is we're flattening all of the data that we're getting, so it's really digestible and understandable for that AI model later on when we try and get specific insights for that company. We're going to come back though, and we'll change this to be defined below, change to expression, and we're going to add the part in here for the JSON clean text, which is just going to be the output from our code module. Now to be able to use it, we need to add a basic LLM chain. So I'm using OpenAI in this case, just for a nice, really cost-effective delivery of getting that website summarized. The next part, we'll just do Airtable, and this is going to go through and store all of that summarized data for us. So again, we'll come through and do our leads generation, come down. We're going to choose a table, so the scrape leads. We're going to choose an ID to match on, which is not going to be this one, is going to be the website ID that we had from earlier on. We'll come out of here, we'll add our request in there that we're going to be using to do that. And then we're going to get rid of all of this until we get to the company website scraped info, so that we can use that a bit later on. So we'll change to expression and then paste in there, and we'll be all good to go. So to show how it works, I just added an example in here. So now if we come through, we'll be able to see that it's got all the header data at the top, but now we've got the information about that specific individual later on, and we're looking for this ID here to make sure that it exists. So now if I do execute step, we'll be able to see that it comes down our company LinkedIn data route, which is the bottom one here. There we go. So now if we see company LinkedIn data, and now we can go through and update this. So it doesn't look like this individual's mentioned any specialities, but the rest is ready to go. So we can do execute step, and it's going to be able to come through and store all of this data, as you can see here, into the LinkedIn company data. There we go, populated in real time to use it a little bit later on. We're going to come back across. We're going to do save. We're then going to do any of the data in here that we got from the website. So I'll just come through and do that for an example. So now I've updated it with the data, as you can see here, which is what you're going to get back from the website. So now if we come up the top and do this process instead, what it's going to do is come through and re-execute that process for us, just so that we can go through, make sure that we tidy up the data, get rid of any of the URLs that may be in there. We're going to summarize it so you can see here, so that we can come through to our Airtable. And as you can see on the right hand side there, just make sure that it's all added in for us to use a little bit later on. So now we've got all of the information we need for specific leads, we can get into the part around personalization. So to do that, we're going to come back across. We're going to set it up at the bottom here. Is if we come across to our Airtable, we're going to be able to copy these and just paste it all down here so it matches up. What this is going to do is it's going to sync us with the first page here, which is our Apollo lists. So at the bottom here, we can just see all of the different requests tied together. So as we press the button here, it's going to set it up for you. Now to do a button, all you want to do is add your webhook request in here. So if we come back across, we're going to do add node. We'll do webhook so that we can add that in there. We'll change this to production URL. We're going to copy this, come back across, open this back up, and then just replace what we've got in here so we can use it. We'll do save. Now we're going to need to come back across. We're going to just need to activate the environment so we can listen out for this event coming through. That's the same with what we're going to do up here for the production environment. We'll come into here. Also, we'll come into executions. What we'll then be able to see is if we come back across and we do personalized emails, it's going to go workflow has started. And what we should see is if this refreshes, we should be able to see that execution come through within the 4 milliseconds. So there we go. We've got it coming through. We're going to do copy to editors so we can go through and use this data. This is going to pin it for us. And if we come down the bottom, we've got that record ID. So now we can use an Airtable module and we're going to say get a record. And then what this is going to do is if we connect it up, is if we put it across for the record ID, we'll now be able to execute the step and get all of the different URLs that are associated with the request so that we can go. And as you can see here, we've now got all of the different ones we'll be able to generate the personalized emails for. So we've only got one coming out because what we need to do is do a split amp and then we need to put across the array with all of the different IDs. We'll do execute step and now we're going to go from one item back out to the 482 that we had a little bit earlier on. So now we can run through each of these individually. So to do that, we're going to do a loop in here. This is going to do loop 1, i.e. go one by one through the 482. There's other ways you can do it in batches, but I just find this is nice and easy to keep track of it. We're going to come through and do Airtable. We're going to do get a record again. And then what we're going to need to do is execute the previous node just so that we can get that record ID to process through. Whilst it's loading, we're going to add our lead generation in here and come through and do our scraped leads. And then we're going to put across that ID that's from our looped over items. Now, if we do get the record, we should get all of that data coming back for that one individual we're going to be personalizing it for just in this quick demo. We're going to put it across to the right-hand side. We're then going to do basic LLM chain and we're going to do this 3 times because we're going to go through and do a personalized subject line, a personalized icebreaker and a personalized offer in here as well. So we'll add those all in. We're then going to come through and add an OpenAI module. But if you want to add any of the other ones, you can do that as well. And then we can connect all of these up so they all use the same one. So if you make the change in here, it's going to affect all of the different ones. So we'll just rename these, and there we go. Now if we do save, we're going to need to come through and make some changes. So in here, we're going to need to define below, change to expression and pop this out. We'll put it across on the left so we can see the data a bit more. And what we want to do is leverage this personal information on LinkedIn, the website, and the company data so we can actually have a really informed personalized. So to do that, we're going to come back across to the community. And then what we're going to do is copy this input here for the subject line, which is first, paste in there so we can use it. Now it's going to take all of the individuals' names so we can use that a bit later on. In the meantime, we're going to come down and add our prompt in here. Again, we'll come back across to the community and we're just going to copy it here. What we've got is an example that we can use here, and you just need to go through and change it to your specific company, your specific industry that you're working with, so it's tailored to what you do. So now we can come out of here and do save. If we do execute the step, what we should see on the right hand side is that personalized subject line. You can make this AI, you can make it normal, it's whatever works best for you. So as we can see here, it's gone through and ingested all of this data about that individual. And now it's got, hi Richard, future-proof NJ law with AI today. Next, we're going to do the icebreaker. So same again, we're going to open this up an expression, come back across to the community, take all of these inputs, come back across and paste in here. It looks like we need to make some updates. So for example here, this is going to be get a rec instead of being what we have in there at the moment, just because of the way that we've named it. So there we go, all updated. And as you can see on the right hand side, we're ingesting all of that data to be able to use. So now if we do add a prompt, we're going to add this. So it's going to be that specific icebreaker, which is key for the emails. So now you'll be able to come down and copy all of this, come back across and paste in here. What we also need to do is copy this example style at the background, just so we can use that in the next step. To make sure that we get a really good output, we're going to come down to require specific format, open up where we've got structured JSON format, and then paste the example in there, so we make sure that it's coming out in that format every time. Now if we run this, what we'll see is that we're going to have that personalized subject line, and it's going to come up with 2 personalized icebreakers. So maybe you could do some A/B testing in platforms like Instantly. And there you go, all ready to go. We'll come out of here and do save. Personalized offer, we're going to copy that input that we had from the step before, because it's exactly the same request that we're sending through. The only thing we need to change is that prompt. So we'll do the expression, pop this out, back across to the community. We're then going to copy all of this like we had before. Come back across and paste in there. And now it's going to be able to go through and generate that personalized offer. So maybe this is specific to your company, the time of year, whatever it is, we'll be able to do all unique in here. So we'll just wait for this to come back. And then last things last, we're just going to go through and update Airtable with all of this data that we've generated. And then you can download these CSVs and upload them into tools like Instantly to get it all done. So we'll come down here, we're going to do our lead and then generation. We'll add that in there, down and add our scraped leads. All we're going to do is match it on the ID because we have the record ID from earlier on. We'll get rid of the rest of this information because we don't need to update any of this. What we're updating is the subject line. So we'll close this down and pull that across. We'll close this down and put across Icebreaker 1, Icebreaker 2, and then we'll also be able to put across the personalized offer, and we'll close these down. And how good was it? Well, if we come into here, we've now got Hi Richard, future-proof NJ Law Office, which is all about that company, which is really good. We can then come down and see the icebreaker. So given your extensive experience leading that individual, keen to explore how AI could help streamline operations. So again, you can really tailor this to what you want. Deep background in educational and instructional technology, leveraging AI can really boost efficiency. So sounds much more realistic than, hi Richard, I do this, please talk to me. And again, this is just the icebreaker. The rest of your details come below to make sure you're giving that best offer personal. And speaking of offers, if we open this up, we'll be able to see here, maybe if you want to just change this to be specific to your company, 50% off or one company per postcode, you'll be able to add that in here. So now if we come through, we'll be able to do execute step. And now if we come across, what we should see in our scraped leads is that all your list is going to update for us automatically. So what we should see is 1, 2, 3, 4, all gets populated any second. Now it's just going through and running it for us. So if we come across, there we can see it's all gone through and done it automatically. So to use this in other platforms, you just download the CSV, come across to platforms like Instantly to be able to send out emails. We're going to log in. We'll be able to come down to where we've got, for example, campaigns, add a new campaign. We can do YT and then demo. We'll do continue. And now we can add our leads. So add leads, upload the CSV that we've just downloaded from everything that we've done in n8n. We can not import most of these. We can do the name in here. So again, just make sure that all of these are tied up. When you come a bit further down, we're going to need to make sure the actual info a bit later on. So we'll get rid of this because we don't need that scraped ID. What we do need are these objects as custom variables, because then if we come down and add all of these, what we can do is upload all. Now it's going to go through and just try and upload this for us. You can then add the variables in here. So for example, Icebreaker 1, and it's not going to show you anything in the preview at the moment just because we didn't add it for everyone. But if you come across to where we've got the leads, what we'll see is in here, we've got the column for personalized offer and icebreaker. So we'll just find the one that we did for that one individual. But if you were to run this in the background, again, it's that less than a penny to be able to get all of these. As you can see, we've got the insights ready to go that we'll be able to use for this specific individual's email campaign. And that's how you can get set up really quickly for personalized email generation campaigns with highly enriched insights. Make sure to comment below if you want to see anything further. Make sure to click the subscribe button below. We do lots of videos around AI and automation, over 3 a week, plus all the resources. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more around AI agents, automation, and have a great day.